Seeds of the Silent Earth, Chapter 1, Page 1. The wind, a restless wanderer, swept across the skeletal remains of a once bustling Texas town. Buildings clawed at the sky, hollowed eyes staring out at a world stripped bare. Rust-colored dust, the remnants of a life long gone, painted the air, clinging to the cracked asphalt and the withered husks of forgotten cars. This was Colleen, or at least what was left of it. Elara, her brown hair the color of parched earth, sat perched on a crumbling brick wall, her gaze fixed on the horizon. At 22, her face already bore the etchings of a life lived under a harsh sun, lines that spoke of resilience and a quiet determination. The world had shrunk, its vibrant tapestry reduced to muted shades of survival. The Great Sickness, they called it, a swift and merciless plague that had swept across the globe, leaving behind a desolate silence. She remembered the whispers, the growing fear that had snaked its way through their small community on the outskirts of Killeen. The news reports, crackling with static, spoke of a virus, a contagion that devoured its victims from the inside out. Then came the fever, the coughs that rattled in the night, the bodies piling up in the streets, her family, her friends, her neighbors, all gone, swallowed by the unforgiving earth. Page 2. Elara closed her eyes, the memories a bitter sting. She had been spared, a cruel twist of fate that left her both grateful and burdened. Grateful for life, yet burdened by the weight of loss, by the responsibility to rebuild in a world that had crumbled. She looked down at her hands, calloused and strong from years of working the land. Her father, a farmer with a deep love for the soil, had taught her the secrets of the earth, the rhythm of the seasons, the delicate dance between humans and nature. Now those lessons were her lifeline, her only hope in a world without electricity, without the conveniences that had once seemed indispensable. Her village, a cluster of makeshift shelters cobbled together from salvaged wood and scrap metal, clung to life on the outskirts of the ghost town. They were a small band of survivors, barely 20 souls, their faces etched with the same grief, the same uncertainty. Yet, within their eyes, Elara saw a flicker of resilience, a spark that refused to be extinguished. Page 3. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced like macabre specters. A chill wind whistled through the skeletal buildings, carrying with it the whispers of the lost. Elara shivered, pulling her threadbare shawl tighter around her shoulders. It was time to return to the village, to face the hollow stares, the gnawing hunger that gnawed at their bellies. She walked slowly, her boots crunching on the gravel, each step a heavy echo in the silence. The air was thick with the smell of dust and decay, a constant reminder of the world they had lost. Yet beneath it all, Elara detected another scent, faint but persistent, the smell of damp earth, of life clinging to survival. As she approached the village, she saw a small group gathered around a flickering fire, their faces illuminated by the dancing flames. Old Man Finn, his eyes cloudy with age, sat hunched on a fallen log, his voice a low rumble as he recounted tales of the past. Maya, her belly swollen with child, stirred a pot of meager stew, her movements slow and deliberate. Page 4. Elara joined the circle, her presence a silent comfort. They shared their meager meal, the silence punctuated by the crackling of the fire and the occasional cough. There was little to say, the weight of their loss a suffocating blanket. Yet, in the shared warmth of the fire, in the simple act of eating together, there was a sense of community, a fragile bond that held them together. After the meal, Elara helped Maya settle for the night, then retreated to her own small shelter. It was a cramped space, barely large enough for a bed and a small table, but it was hers, a sanctuary in a world gone mad. She lay down, her body weary, her mind racing. The whispers of the lost echoed in her ears, a chorus of sorrow and regret. But beneath the grief, Elara heard another voice, a whisper of hope, a call to action. She knew that survival was not enough. They needed to rebuild, to create a new world from the ashes of the old. Page 5. Elara closed her eyes, her thoughts turning to the seeds she had salvaged from her father's abandoned farm. Seeds of corn, beans, squash, the staples of a life long gone. She imagined a field of green, a vibrant tapestry of life woven into the barren landscape. It was a distant dream, a fragile hope in a world of despair. But it was a dream worth fighting for, a hope that could sustain them through the long, dark night. She drifted off to sleep, the whispers of the lost fading into the background. In their place, she heard the rustling of leaves, the chirping of crickets, the gentle patter of rain on parched earth. It was the music of life, a symphony of renewal, a promise whispered on the wind. Seeds of the Silent Earth, Chapter 2, The Goat's Gift. Page 6. The first rays of dawn painted the sky in hues of pale orange and dusty rose. Elara rose, her body stiff from sleeping on the hard floor. Today was the day she would introduce the village to the true value of their goats. She led them to the small enclosure where the goats were kept, their bleating a welcome sound in the stillness. "Today, we learn about the goat's gift," she announced, her voice strong and clear. "Not just milk, not just meat, but something even more essential to our survival." She pointed to the piles of droppings scattered throughout the enclosure. "This," she declared, scooping a handful of the pellet-like waste, "is the foundation of our future." A ripple of unease spread through the villagers. They had always regarded animal waste as a nuisance, a foul byproduct of survival. Now Elara was presenting it as a treasure. Page 7. "But it's just waste," a woman named Mara stammered, her brow furrowed. Elara rose, her eyes meeting Mara's. "It's transformed waste, Mara, nature's way of recycling. Without the fertilizers of the old world, we must learn to work with what we have." She led them to a pit dug into the earth, a layered compost heap in its early stages. "We mix the goat droppings with dried leaves, vegetable scraps, even ash from our fires. This creates a rich, fertile soil, a food for our plants." She demonstrated, carefully layering the materials, explaining the process of decomposition and the role of microorganisms. The villagers watched, their initial skepticism slowly giving way to curiosity. Alara's passion was contagious, her knowledge practical and grounded. She spoke of the importance of aeration, of maintaining the right moisture balance, of allowing nature to work its magic. Page 8. "It will take time," she cautioned, "but with patience and care, this compost will nourish our crops, allowing us to grow food even in this harsh land." That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the villagers began to gather their own scraps, their eyes filled with a newfound hope. The goat, once merely a source of milk and meat, had become a symbol of renewal. Over the next few days, Elara and the villagers worked together to build more compost heaps, experimenting with different combinations of materials. They learned to turn the compost regularly, to monitor its moisture content, to recognize the signs of successful decomposition. One morning, as Elara turned a heap of compost, she noticed a rich, earthy smell, a sweet aroma that filled the air. She scooped up a handful of the dark, crumbly material, its texture soft and yielding. "It's ready," she announced, her voice filled with excitement. "The compost is ready." Page 9. The villagers gathered around, their faces lit with anticipation. They watched as Elara carefully spread the compost around the base of a struggling tomato plant, its leaves yellowed and withered. Within days, the plant began to show signs of new growth, its leaves turning a vibrant green. The success of the compost was a turning point for the village. It was a tangible demonstration of Elara's knowledge, a testament to the power of nature's cycles. The villagers began to see the world in a new light, to appreciate the interconnectedness of all living things. They started to collect every scrap of organic waste, every fallen leaf, every bit of ash from their fires. They built more compost heaps, experimenting with different methods, learning from their mistakes and celebrating their successes. Page 10. Elara also showed them how to create a simple, nutrient-rich liquid fertilizer by steeping goat droppings in water. This compost tea was used to water their seedlings, giving them a boost of essential nutrients. The liquid fertilizer was a quick way to help the plants. The village was slowly transforming, becoming a place of innovation and resourcefulness. The goats, once just animals for food, were now a vital part of the ecosystem. Their droppings a precious resource, their milk a source of nourishment, their presence a symbol of hope. The goat's gift was more than just fertilizer. It was the gift of knowledge, the gift of community, the gift of a future. Chapter 3. The Sorghum Secret, page 11. With the success of the compost and the growing understanding of sustainable practices, Elara turned her attention to the plants themselves. Today's lesson was about sorghum, a hardy, drought-resistant grain that could thrive in the harsh Texas climate. She led the villagers to a small plot of land where a few stalks of sorghum stood tall and proud. "This," she began, her voice echoing across the parched earth, "is our future. This is sorghum, a grain that can withstand the heat, the lack of water, the very challenges we face." She showed them the thick, fibrous stalks, the broad leaves that captured every precious drop of dew, the clusters of seeds that held the promise of future harvests. "We will learn to cultivate this grain, to save its seeds, to ensure its survival and ours." Page 12. Elara demonstrated the techniques for planting sorghum, explaining the importance of spacing and depth. She showed them how to prepare the soil, using the nutrient-rich compost they had created. She emphasized the need for careful watering, using only the rainwater they had collected. "We must learn to work with the land, to understand its rhythms," she explained, her fingers gently tracing the contours of the soil. "We cannot force it to yield, but we can nurture it, guide it, and it will provide for us." She taught them the importance of seed saving, showing them how to select the strongest, healthiest plants and carefully harvest their seeds. "These seeds," she said, holding a handful of the tiny grains, "are our legacy. They are the promise of future harvests, the guarantee of our survival." Page 13. The challenges were immense. Water was scarce, the heat relentless. The sun beat down on the parched earth, baking the soil, withering the leaves. Elara and the villagers worked tirelessly, watering the plants with precious rainwater, shading them from the midday sun with makeshift shelters. One afternoon, a dust storm swept across the land, a swirling vortex of sand and grit that blotted out the sun. The villagers huddled in their shelters, their faces covered, their eyes stinging. The wind howled, the dust swirled, and the world outside was a chaotic blur. When the storm finally subsided, the villagers emerged, their faces grim, their hearts heavy. The sorghum plants were battered, their leaves torn, their stalks bent, but they had survived. Page 14. Elara surveyed the damage, her eyes filled with a quiet determination. "We will not be defeated," she declared, her voice strong and clear. "We will mend what is broken. We will protect what is left. We will not give up." They worked together, carefully straightening the bent stalks, removing the torn leaves, watering the plants with the last of their rainwater. They built windbreaks from salvaged wood and cloth, shielding the plants from future storms. Slowly, gradually, the sorghum plants began to recover. New leaves sprouted, new stalks emerged, new clusters of seeds formed. The villagers watched, their hearts filled with a renewed sense of hope. Page 15. The harvest was small, but it was enough. Enough to feed the village, enough to save seeds for the next planting, enough to prove that even in the harshest of conditions, life could find a way to thrive. Elara gathered the villagers, holding up a handful of the harvested sorghum. "This," she said, her voice filled with emotion, "is our victory. This is the fruit of our labor, the reward for our perseverance. We have learned to work with the land, to respect its power, to embrace its gifts." They shared a simple meal of sorghum porridge, a taste of the future, a promise of abundance. The sorghum, once just a grain, had become a symbol of resilience, a testament to the power of knowledge, the strength of community, the enduring hope of survival.
I hope you found that entertaining. If you did, please hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of my future videos. I'm always trying to bring you new chapters. See you next time.